Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where in today's episode, you'll hear the most outrageously entitled stories ever, since the last episode I did. My friends, I hope you're having a fantastic day today, and get ready to shake your heads, because these stories are super wild, so I hope you enjoy them, and do hit that subscribe button for future tales. And yes, guys, I'm feeding Steve-O, I'm giving him fresh air, etc., for all who care. Anyways, guys, the first story was emailed to me from a longtime listener named PRIYA. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Guys, if you want to submit your stories, the email is in the description box below. So, a little bit of background. I live in an apartment. I'm also Indian. Our cuisine involves the use of a lot of heavy spices and onions. So, a couple of nights ago, I was cooking for myself. I was making an Indian dish called butter chicken, which is a popular dish in Indian culture. It uses very aromatic spices, so to a person who hasn't had any Indian food or been around it, the smell and taste can be pretty overwhelming. It's not for everybody. It was going well. Basically, I was finished and just waiting for my rice to finish cooking. I'm cleaning up when all of a sudden, I hear a furious banging on my door. I answer the door and was greeted by a woman whom I've never seen before. So for the story's sake, let's call her Karen because why not? She acted like a Karen. So she greets me in a friendly tone and says, "Hey, what are you cooking?" Now, I'm thinking she was curious about the food and was genuinely interested in the smell, as Indian cuisine does have a unique smell to it. So I said, I'm cooking a popular Indian dish called butter chicken. I'm using my mom's recipe. I've actually cooked it a lot. If you're curious to what it is, you can have some if you'd like. Karen then says, "Oh no, I don't want that. I actually came knocking to, tell you that your food is stinking up this hallway. Why aren't you doing anything about the smell? The smell is making my daughter feel sick." Now, at this point, I'm totally baffled and a little bit embarrassed, and I said, I don't know what to say. I'm just cooking inside of my home. There isn't much I can do about it. I have the overhead fan on and everything. So Karen then says, "Well, it's an odd smell, and it's making my daughter feel very sick. I just wanted to let you know, can't you change up what you're eating, like cook something less foreign? I've actually noticed that same smell all the time, and quite frankly, I'm getting sick of it myself." Now, I know the others won't say anything about it, but someone has to speak up for those who don't have a backbone. Now, as I've said, if you've never had Indian cuisine, the spices are something you won't be used to, but honestly, there's no reason for this woman to be so rude about it. I was shocked and speechless. I tried to explain and apologize again, saying that I'm in my own home, that I pay the rent to be here, that I should be allowed to cook whatever I want, and I'm sorry for the smell, but I can't do anything about it. So Karen then says, "I know the owner of the apartment complex. If you keep cooking what you're cooking, I'll see that you're evicted. The smell is bothering all of us on the floor, and people here won't say it, but I will. It smells gross." Now, at this point, I just shook my head. I literally thought that she was knocking on my door because she was curious to what I was eating, and expected "Oh hey, that smells different. Can I try some?" But boy, it went in a complete different direction. So she then stomps off, and I was left baffled. I couldn't even process what was going on. Like, I'm not gonna stop cooking what I want to eat in my own home. I'll keep you posted on what happened, but I'm gonna hold my ground for now. Okay, I just want to say that I love Indian food, guys. Butter chicken is so delicious. That woman was being totally ridiculous. Like, that's the thing about living in apartments. You have to accept the fact that you're gonna be hearing noises from other tenants, and you're gonna be smelling what other people are cooking. Like, it's so damn entitled and rude to knock on someone's door and ask them to cook something that smells better to cater to you. Guys, listen, leave a comment on what you would have done if something like this happened. Is it outrageous? Is it entitled? Let me know in the comments below. Now, this story happened when I was a junior in college. Here's some context. I had taken a long weekend trip to Florida with a friend of mine to visit her brother and go to the Universal Studios Fright Night Halloween event. Now, we had an amazing trip, and we were on the plane about to head home. This was my second time ever air traveling. We didn't have much when I was growing up, so vacations were not a regular thing, and the ones we took were really low-key. So there I was just excited to be flying in my coach seat, waiting to take off, and we kept waiting. It became clear that there was a problem with the plane. The flight attendants started calling various passengers to exit to be placed on different flights so they'd make their necessary connections. Eventually, after 40 minutes, it was my friend and I plus around 6 other people. And then it was our turn to leave the plane. Now, we were sort of near the end of the group, slowly making our way back onto the waiting area. So, one couple, probably in their mid-50s, had stormed up ahead of us, and by the time my friend and I emerged from the gate entrance, the rude husband was already berating the pair of attendants, who, to their credit, remained poised and calm. They tried to reassure him, but he was talking over them. He said, "This is unacceptable. You owe me a free flight now, or at least a free upgrade to business class for this." Now, I do remember this guy. He was sitting a few rows ahead of me in coach. So by then, the rest of us had gathered around. The attendants began addressing the whole group, offering reassurances, filling us in that there was a critical problem with the plane, which made me very glad for the change, despite the inconvenience. Now, the rude husband was going off through all of this, and when the attendants left to make arrangements for us all, he and his wife sat there and continued his commentary to his poor wife, saying, "This is unacceptable. How dare they? We'd better get upgrades. How their son is a lawyer," so on and so on. Shortly, the attendants returned, and the man practically rushes over to them and says, "I demand you make this right. What are you gonna do for my wife and I? I'll have you know that our son is a lawyer, and if you guys don't want to get sued, you'd better compensate us." With that, the attendant smiled and said, "You guys are all set. Sir, I'm very happy to tell you that we have a flight leaving shortly, and we were able to give you and your wife seats in economy with extra legroom." The rude husband then looks at her and says, "I don't want those seats. The least you can do is upgrade us to business class for this. That's the least you can do." And then he huffily returns to his seat. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just waiting. The attendant then turns to us and says, "And I'm happy to let everybody else know that you'll all be flying first class with us today. Thank you so much for your patience." The rude husband was furious and immediately jumps up to demand why they weren't flying first class while the rest of us just sat there in a state of stunned glee. The attendant just informed the man that she had given him better seats than he originally had, and then she left. She didn't stick around for more abuse. The wait wasn't long, and soon my friend and I were boarded in first class. Now, as a poor air travel newbie, it was like some fantasy land. There was huge seats, real hot washcloths, and though we were underage and couldn't partake in the free cocktail, we got access to delicious desserts. And the food, we got a whole meal, which was truly delicious. Meanwhile, the rude husband is irate. My friend and I were in the last row of first class, which only had around 8 seats. And we could hear him heaping abuse on the coach attendants, going off on how those kids don't deserve first class, how he's a loyal flyer with the airline, and how they should have gotten them first class seats because they're older, and they should be respected, not some kids. Then, the best part happened. So, the flight attendant in our section overheard the rude husband's tirade, with language specifically directed at my friend and me, saying, "Who do those kids think they are? They don't deserve this, we do." So the flight attendant shakes his head and addressed me and my friend saying, "I'm sorry about that, let me take care of this for you." He then closed the curtain to the coach cabin. The rude husband realized what was happening, which makes it even better. I got one last look at his red, irate face before he was gone forever, and it was glorious. Guys, I would have loved to see that man's face when all the people who waited patiently were rewarded with first class seats. Imagine that. A lot of the times complaining and getting loud is the worst way to get what you want, guys. It truly is. It makes people want to help you less. So here's another comment that's worth sharing. This comment says, "I once got stranded at Newark for 22 hours after our flight had an unfixable fault and was cancelled late at night. We got put up in a hotel, but understandably, by the time a new flight rolled around, everybody was quite tired and agitated. As we were waiting to board, the new flight attendant announces that they would be boarding people with additional needs and families with young children first, followed by first class and then premium economy, etc, etc. All pretty standard stuff. Now obviously it takes a bit longer for people in wheelchairs to board, so it makes sense for them to go first. Anyways, this dude in a business suit races to the front of the crowd and starts yelling at the attendant, saying it was already disgusting that he had lost a day due to their incompetence, and now he had to wait even longer, despite being a first-class passenger and paying huge money every year to fly with them. The worst part is, he's looking at others in the crowd to back him up, like it's perfectly reasonable to scream at this woman, who like us, had been stranded and most likely also had very little sleep, and was just doing her best to do her job in this difficult situation. But she was awesome. Without missing a beat, she smiled and nodded and said, "Okay, sir." So she then makes a big point of leaning into her mic and telling people waiting in line who are in wheelchairs and mothers with babies that this fine and capable man needs to board the plane before them, and could they please wait. Literally every single person at the gate is looking at this guy with disgust, and the crowd began to boo and call him names as he tries to backtrack and say that he doesn't mind waiting for the first group, but the attendant says, No, you made yourself very clear, let's get you boarded seeing as you're so much more important than the others. I'm sorry the others will have to wait for you." The guy's humiliated as he walks by. She handled it perfectly. Guys, I would have definitely hated to be that guy on the flight. The flight attendant did a great job of putting him on the spot and teaching him a little lesson though. My roommate's sister is a total Karen. She stopped by to pick up some things their parents had left here and brought her 5-year-old with her. There was fried chicken resting on the countertop that I was preparing for lunch, and without thinking or asking anybody if she could have any, she took a piece and fed it to her child, and that was a huge mistake. Now, I say that because I'm a pepperhead, and this batch of fried chicken was designed to be a struggle for me. The marinade had a ghost pepper sauce in it, and the flour and breadcrumbs were loaded with cayenne pepper and chili pepper, and the oil sauce was made with more ghost pepper sauce. It was absolute madness. So I'm upstairs trying to avoid my roommate's sister, as she's generally unpleasant to be around, when I hear all hell break loose down below. The kid was in absolute agony, crying at the top of her lungs, and the mom was screaming her head off. I pop down to see what the hell is going on. I see my roommate trying to relieve the kid with ice cubes and milk while Karen is letting loose about how we hurt her baby. Now I ask her what happened, and totally ignoring my question, Karen starts berating us about how dangerous it is to leave spicy food around and why we would do such a thing. She then told me that her kid climbed up on the counter and grabbed the chicken. Now my roommate does call her out on it and says there's no way her 5-year-old could reach that, as the chicken was placed way at the back of the stovetop. After denying it and threatening us, she eventually slips and says something like, "How was I supposed to know it was spicy?" Now, we do press her on why she thought she could just go and take food that doesn't belong to her and give it to her kid, as she's got no idea what was in it. And she launches into some hysteric, crying, screaming routine, calling my roommate irresponsible, accusing us of child abuse, and we're lucky that she isn't reporting us to police for this. Meanwhile, the kid is screaming and crying at this point, and she screams that we've ruined her day and she just wanted to see her brother. How people are gonna think that she hits her kid and she was doing us a favor, picking up the stuff her parents left, and then she proceeds to throw the box against the wall. By this point, she's so out of control that she's actually got snot coming out of her nose. She then takes the ice and milk off the kid, who is still in complete agony, and she storms off to the car, dragging the poor kid along with her. It was an interesting afternoon. 5 out of 7 chicken though. Oh, I love how the mom screams out that it's so dangerous to leave spicy chicken laying around, when clearly Opie and her roommate do not live around any kids. Like, listen, you eat what you're not supposed to eat, you pay the price. If you guys haven't heard the story on the channel about a mom stealing Opie's berries from her yard and ignoring a poison sign, you're in for a treat, because I'll leave it right up here. Now, this is a story about my wife's parents and their retirement plan. So here's a key detail. For years, her parents have been pressuring us to buy a house with extra rooms. I didn't know why until not too long ago. So last year, my wife explained to me that her parents were retiring early to enjoy life. They are around 50 years old. They sold their house and most of their belongings and decided to spend their summers at the camper. So far, so good. But here's the kicker. The basis of their plan is that they plan on living with their kids for the rest of the year, when the campgrounds are closed. The grounds close in September, so this means that they need somewhere to go for the remaining 8 months of the year. Now, I should mention that they only have 2 kids, my wife and her sister. So this is their plan until they die. All of their money is going to seeing the world and camping, nothing else. If they ever get sick and can't travel anymore, you got it. It's now your responsibility, because they'll have no money for a special care home or a nurse by then. I told her that I'm not okay with this. We have a child, and I'm looking forward to the day where we're done raising him and we get to do the things we want. To me, living with her parents, seeing them every day at every meal, watching TV with us is a freaking nightmare scenario. Now, I do like them, so that's not the issue. I just don't want to be burdened by an older couple that I would essentially be responsible for to feed and to house. Thankfully, my wife agreed that that's a total garbage idea. We have our own life to live. They don't show it much, but I can tell that they're really offended and feel rejected. But honestly, this is a take-take situation, and when I get to be that age, I won't have the luxury of living off my kid, and I certainly would feel like a piece of crap if I expected that of him. And no, you're not gonna mooch off me when I'll probably have to work till I'm 75 years old. I feel like if I'm gonna have to work my ass off, then I want to enjoy my free time. I don't want to have to take care of an older couple that decides that they should just quit their responsibility and pawn them off on their kids, who just started their married lives. The sister is okay with this, and they spent all of winter and spring there, but not without issues. Personally, I feel this is gross entitlement, seriously. And of course, I would take care of my parents if they fell ill or fell on hard times, but who just decides to live off other people just because? Guys, these are definitely super entitled parents. People generally retire at 50 because they have enough money saved up, not because they want to mooch off their kids. I also have a hard time respecting people who have that mentality of, I raised you, so you need to repay me and you owe me. I mean, in some cultures, that's okay, and that's very common. Parents will move in with their kids, and the kids will take care of them. But for a lot of people, that just won't work. Like, guys, there's a house literally down the block from me that has like 3 families living in there. I mean, if you love your family that much, then why not, right? But let me know what you guys think. And that brings us to another end of our /entitled people, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stories today, because I sure as heck did. And if you missed the last episode of our /entitled people, OP's mom steals her car to teach her a lesson. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.